Tonight we focus on Russia's defense industry, strategically very important for Moscow and a big source of manufacturing jobs. But almost 3 years of war have left it stretched. Global sales are plunging, global customers are leaving. We'll bring you the numbers and the implications. Also an update on the India-China border reset. The US has come out with a new report. It talks about China's deployments and infrastructure upgrades on the border with India. In Europe, they're trying to push Zelensky to sue for peace, offering to deploy European troops in Ukraine as a security guarantee. Will he take it? In the UK, some leaders are looking to join the Khalistan bandwagon, accusing India of harassing British Sikhs. In Egypt, a meeting and a hug that has security repercussions for New Delhi. We'll tell you about the talks between Mohammad Yunus of Bangladesh and Shehbaz Sharif of Pakistan. A look at how India remains the biggest recipient of remittances. Why Prime Minister Modi's visit to Kuwait this weekend is significant. Are schools in India safe? What is being done about the repeated bomb threats? Why a video of Elon Musk kissing Giorgia Meloni is going viral, and why you must meditate. The United Nations has declared December 21st as a World Meditation Day. All this and more coming up. The headlines first. Taiwan's lawmakers brawl inside the parliament. They tackle and douse each other with water. The fight started when the president's party tried to block some bills. They argued that the legislations were a threat to the self-ruled island. Similar scenes in India as the winter session of parliament ends amid protests and chaos. The police launch a probe against the opposition Congress leader Rahul Gandhi. This is after two ruling party lawmakers claimed that they were injured in the protest. The Congress party has also filed a counter police complaint. The European Union and Switzerland sign a new deal. The EU chief Ursula von der Leyen calls it a historic step forward in ties. The deal will ensure Switzerland's access to the EU's single market. It comes more than 3 years after Switzerland walked away from the last such attempt. French President Emmanuel Macron accused of racism. A report claims Macron blamed Mamadous for the problem in French hospitals. Mamadou is a common name among Muslims from West Africa rather. Macron has also been accused of making sexist remarks about women opposition leaders. And a stampede at a school fair in Nigeria kills at least 35 children. The incident took place in Nigeria's third largest city. 8 people have been arrested, including the sponsor of the event. In recent months, the West African nation has seen several deadly stampedes. What is Russia best known for? Apart from vodka, it's weapons. The AK-47 from Kalashnikov, the MiG series of fighter jets, and the S-400 missile defense systems. These Russian weapons are world famous. They've made Russia one of the biggest arms exporters in the world. The defense industry has been its pillar of strength and a source of national pride. It has kept the war in Ukraine going. It has also helped sustain the Russian economy. After all, weapons are Russia's most valuable export. But the war has left cracks in this industry, and those cracks are showing. Russia is losing its edge in the global arms market. The last 3 years have been tough. Moscow's weapon exports have collapsed. Just look at the numbers. Look at how much Russia made from weapons sales this year, less than $1 billion. You heard that right. Russia's earnings from defense exports have fallen below $1 billion this year. Let's put this number in perspective. In 2021, Russia earned over $14 billion from selling weapons. $14 billion in 2021. Now it is less than $1 billion. That's a drop of 93%. And this is not a sudden collapse, it has been gradual. In 2023, sales fell from $14 to $8 billion. In 2023, they fell from $8 to $3 billion. And this year, in 2024, they've fallen below $1 billion. And this is happening because of the war in Ukraine. Russian forces are fighting there. They need weapons. So their defense industry is prioritizing it. They're focused on meeting Russian demand, which means that foreign customers will have to wait, even customers like India. India is Russia's biggest defense market, and Russia is India's biggest arms supplier. It's an old and solid relationship. But in recent years, it has been under strain. Russia has a long list of pending orders from India, like 2 squadrons of the S-400 missile system. This is a missile defense system. It was supposed to be delivered last year, but now reports say that it won't be here before 2026. And this is just one example. The second is a nuclear-powered attack submarine. India is supposed to lease a Russian sub. That too is delayed. We may not get the submarine till 2028. Then there are delays in the delivery of spare parts. This is for the existing equipment, like the Sukhoi fighter jets and the T-90 battle tanks. The supplies are running late. India is concerned. It has raised this issue multiple times with Russia. At the same time, India is exploring other alternatives. It is reducing its dependence on Russian weapons. New Delhi is turning to the West, especially for advanced weapons. Since 2018, India has signed contracts worth $20 billion with the United States. This includes deals for long-range drones and advanced fighter jets. So the shift is clear. And India is not the only country making the shift. Many others are moving away from Russia. Even China is part of this list. Beijing too is buying fewer Russian weapons now. At one point, Russia supplied 85% of China's defense needs. Over the last 15 years, this has gone down. Now 68% of China's weapons are Russian. It is still a big number, because a lot of Western players also won't give weapons to China. So they're focusing on building their own. China is building their own. Either way, it's a loss for Russia. Because China is not just buying fewer weapons, it is also competing with Russia in other markets. Like in sub-Saharan Africa. This region was once dominated by Russian arms, but last year Russia lost the top spot to China. Beijing is now the largest weapons exporter to sub-Saharan Africa. France and South Korea are also challenging Russia. Some interesting trends, in fact, are emerging here. Last year, France exported more combat aircraft than Russia. And South Korea is exporting more land platforms, more than Russia and China combined. South Korea is exporting this. And what are land platforms? Your weapons like tanks, armored vehicles, and artillery systems. So as Russia struggles to deliver, new players are gaining ground, each with their own USP. China and South Korea are known for affordability. French weapons are said to be high-tech, almost on par with the American defense systems. It is clear that Russia's customer base is shrinking. In 2011, it sold weapons to some 35 countries. By 2023, that list had shrunk to just 12 countries. What does this trend mean for Russia? Well, they must catch up. They must play to their strengths. Build high-tech weapons at low cost. That's what Russia is best known for. And most importantly, they have to win back customers by making deliveries on time. Vladimir Putin knows that he has to recapture the space. Perhaps that's why he challenged America to a missile duel yesterday.
If those Western experts you mentioned think that Orshnik can be shot down, we propose them and those in the West and the United States, who pay them for their analysis, to conduct some kind of technological experiment, a high-tech duel of the 21st century. Let them name some object, let's say, in Kiev, concentrate all their air defense and missile defense forces there, and we will hit it with Orshnik and see what happens. We are ready for such an experiment. Is the other side ready?
He was talking about the Orshnik. Russia used this missile last month in Ukraine. Putin says that this is a new weapon, a weapon that can travel faster than the speed of sound and take down targets with pinpoint accuracy. The West has expressed doubts over these claims. They say the Orshnik is an old weapon. But Putin is having none of it, hence the challenge. It's not just a warning to the West, it's also a message to the rest that in the weapons arena, Russia may be down, but it's not out. Everyone is talking about an India-China reset, a chance to put the animosity behind, a chance to look ahead. But a reset requires both sides to deal in good faith. Is China doing that? A new US report is not so sure. It has come from the Pentagon, which is basically America's defense ministry. They have released an assessment on the Chinese military. It covers China's operations across theaters in the Himalayas, in the South China Sea, and in the Pacific. Now look at what this report says on the LAC, the line of actual control, the de facto border between India and China. This is what the Pentagon report says, and I'm quoting. In June 2020, the Chinese army and the Indian patrols clashed in Galwan Valley, the most violent clash between the two countries in 45 years. The PLA has not drawn down its positions on troop numbers since the 2020 clash and has built infrastructure and support facilities to maintain multiple brigade deployments along the LAC. That's what the Pentagon report says. In other words, China has not scaled back their presence. Instead, they have ramped it up. They are building more infrastructure near the LAC, near the border with India. In fact, we've got some numbers. China has 120,000 soldiers along the LAC. These troops are backed by some serious firepower like tanks, howitzers and missiles. Of course, in Ladakh, firepower is not enough. You need good infrastructure too. You need bridges and roads to transport your troops. And China is building that too. In July, they completed a bridge near Pangong Lake. It connects the north and south banks of the lake. It cuts travel distance by 50 to 100 kilometers. And this is just one example. As the US report says, China is ramping up infrastructure across the LAC. The question then is, how will this impact the reset? Does it violate the border deal with India? You see, this US report covers early 2024. The border deal was struck in October, so there is no overlap. Plus, we haven't heard reports of any violations yet. Indian and Chinese representatives met this week in Beijing and they said that patrolling and grazing had resumed. But here's the problem. Infrastructure gives you an edge in the long run. It makes it easier to deploy assets, to transport soldiers and to reach remote locations in the region. Since the Galwan clash, China has been focused on this. They've built multi-purpose villages. They've built roads, tunnels, helipads and bridges. The idea is to improve last-mile connectivity to reach forward locations in the shortest possible time. Now, India too has been improving its infrastructure, but China holds the edge. The Air Force Chief himself admitted this.
As far as Eastern Ladakh is concerned, the situation remains practically same as it has been for last 1 year plus. Except that we see the development of infrastructure on the other side has been fairly rapid. We are trying to match up with that. We are also, upgrading our airfields.
And it's not just Ladakh. Let me show you these pictures, satellite pictures from Doklam. It's a plateau located between China, India and Bhutan. Now, both China and Bhutan claim this region, and Beijing is busy building villages there. Some 22 of them have been completed, 22 villages built by China. These villages are supposed to consolidate China's grip on sensitive areas. And Doklam is as sensitive as it gets. It is located very close to the Siliguri corridor. It's also called the Chicken's Neck. This is a narrow land bridge that connects India's northeast to the rest of the country. You cut that off, you cut off the northeast from India. So China's strategy is pretty clear. Build, build and build. At the same time, stop India from building. Remember, that's what happened in 2020. India was reportedly building roads near Galwan and China pushed back aggressively. Is this hypocrisy? Yes, it is. But more importantly, it's a challenge that India must tackle. The government has invested a lot on border infrastructure. Spending has increased by 4 times since 2014. This year's budget, in fact, allocated 6,500 crore rupees to the border, which is around $770 million US. So India is trying to catch up. But reset or not, we have to be vigilant because the ground situation has evolved since 2020. Both sides are now better equipped, better funded, and have better access. They have access to better infrastructure. In other words, the next face-off could be deadlier. And speaking of face-offs, a new confrontation is unfolding between Zelensky and Europe. It sounds improbable because Europe is the only force still backing Kiev. So why would Zelensky pick a fight with them? But he is, because he is under pressure to give in. Before I tell you more, let's look at the ground situation. The war has reached a stalemate. The front lines are frozen. Russia maintains a clear edge. And Ukraine, despite its new weapons and latest offensives, has failed to put Russia on the back foot. So now Western leaders are changing their posture. They're talking about a truce, a negotiated end to the war. That may not be to Zelensky's liking. It's all happening behind closed doors right now. Europe is offering some security guarantees too. But the Ukrainian president is in denial.
I believe that European guarantees will not be enough for Ukraine. And this cannot be discussed only with European leaders. Because for us, the real guarantees in any case of today or in the future are NATO.
You heard him. Zelensky is spelling out his terms for a truce. He says European security guarantees won't be enough. He wants a clear pathway towards a NATO membership. It's an idea that doesn't have many takers in Europe or in NATO. In any case, Zelensky is in no position to dictate terms. He's practically at the mercy of his allies. So what explains the sharp words? Well, there's a backstory here. Zelensky was in Brussels this week. Reports say that he was presented with a proposal. What if European troops are deployed as peacekeepers in Ukraine? That was the proposal, and here's the thought behind it. If there is a deal with Russia, European troops could protect Ukraine. Their presence would guarantee Ukraine's future security. At least that's the hope. And this idea was first floated by Emmanuel Macron, the French president. He even discussed it with Donald Trump. Both leaders met in Paris this month. Trump was in town for the reopening of the Notre Dame Cathedral. Reports say that Trump showed interest in this idea, which comes as no surprise because we know his position on the issue. Donald Trump wants to end the war ASAP. And to achieve this, he wants to stop military aid to Ukraine. Trump has said this in no uncertain terms, so Europe is preparing for that eventuality. Trump has also long complained about Europe's approach to defense. He doesn't want to keep writing checks to NATO. He wants the European members to step up to spend more on their defense. Hence the idea to deploy European troops in Ukraine. The only problem is Zelensky. He doesn't like the idea. He wants to keep fighting and he wants more military aid.
That is, there are not enough weapons, not enough people. In some way, there are always not enough people. Of course, the commanders on the battlefield, also more troops. But what is very important is how the brigades are equipped so that they can defend the country.
Well, where will these weapons come from? Until last year, Zelensky's demands were taken seriously, but now a fatigue has set in. There aren't enough gains on the ground. Trump doesn't want to help. Germany too is growing wary of this war. Chancellor Olaf Scholz is on his way out. They're heading into an election in Germany and they're pushing for a deal where peace becomes possible.
For now, continued support for Ukraine is important here. A clear course that there is no escalation of war, that it does not develop into a war between Russia and NATO.
So European leaders too want an end to the war. They can't pull the plug though. They need a solid strategy for Ukraine. They have many details to figure out, like how many troops are they going to deploy? What would minimum deterrence look like? If there is a clash, what kind of support will they give to Kiev? Will European peacekeepers provide only tactical support or will they engage with the Russians directly? Europe's proposal is missing all these crucial specifics. More importantly, who are they discussing a truce with? How will they bring Vladimir Putin to the talking table? He doesn't even recognize Zelensky as Ukraine's legitimate leader. Look at what he said yesterday.
If we can't negotiate with the head of the regime, who can we negotiate with if he's not legitimate himself? You know, if someone gets elected, gets legitimacy, we will talk to anyone, including Zelensky. But now, if Ukraine really wants to go down the path of peaceful settlement, they are certainly in a position to do so. They can organize inside Ukraine this process any way they want. It is just that we can only sign with those who is legitimate.
Putin says he's willing to negotiate, but he wants to dictate his terms. He is in a position to do so. Russian forces have the upper hand on the battlefield and Ukraine's allies want an exit. Zelensky's only option is to try and cut his losses. Vantage continues after a short break.
RSS chief Mohan Bhagwat has spoken again on the Mandir-Masjid disputes in the country. Mr. Bhagwat said that some individuals following the construction of the Ram temple in Ayodhya are under the impression that they can become leaders of Hindus by rigging up such disputes. This is unacceptable, Mr. Bhagwat has said. To quote him, every day a new matter or a dispute is being rigged up. How can this be allowed? This cannot continue. The RSS chief said that the world needs to be shown that the country can live together in harmony. By building the Ram temple, which is a matter of faith of Hindus, one does not become a Hindu leader. This is what Mr. Bhagwat is saying. He said Ram temple is a matter of faith for Indians, and under the burden of the past, we should not resort to extreme hatred, malice, enmity, and after raising doubts, we should not rake up new issues. Mr. Bhagwat said that the Ram temple was a matter of faith and Hindus felt that it should be built. But raising issues about some new sites out of hate and enmity is unacceptable. Well, this is not the first time Mohan Bhagwat has spoken on this particular issue. In 2022, Bhagwat had said it was not proper to escalate communal fights. Why look for a shivling in every masjid? Mohan Bhagwat had then said, addressing a ceremony in Nagpur. This was in light of the Gyan-Vapi issue, which Bhagwat said involves some issues of faith and the court's decision on it should be acceptable by all. He also advised everyone involved in the Gyan-Vapi mosque case to sit together and find a way with mutual consent. But also there was no need to find a shivling in every mosque and start a new dispute every day. This is what Mohan Bhagwat's stand has been. He said that the RSS had already made it clear that its participation in the Ayodhya agitation was an exception and for historical reasons, and RSS had now completed it. Bhagwat said, now we don't want to lead any movement. Well, the RSS chief's statement has made the opposition take pot shots at the BJP and say that though Bhagwat is giving sound advice, no one is listening to him in the BJP. Bhagwat's latest comments are also significant as they come just after the Supreme Court has put a stay on any decisions on new surveys or petitions in Mandir-Masjid disputes till next February. This was after the moves of the lower courts on Sambhal and the Ajmer Sharif issue had brought the focus of political attacks on the former Chief Justice of India, D.Y. Chandrachud, for opening the floodgates for such petitions and surveys of various religious sites in the country. First, the All India Muslim Personal Law Board and then the Samajwadi Party targeted Justice Chandrachud for a decision last year by a bench headed by him which allowed an ASI survey of the Gyan-Vapi premises in Varanasi. The SP said that decision by Chandrachud was a bad one, a wrong one. It has opened the floodgates for many more surveys and the Supreme Court must take cognizance and stop such petitions and surveys in the country's interest. On this petition, it is the one in fact which the Supreme Court has now put a stay earlier this month on any fresh surveys till the Supreme Court decides on the matter by February. The Muslim Personal Law Board also issued a statement on the same lines earlier, blaming the Chandrachud-led bench for softening his stance and allowing a survey at Gyan-Vapi. During the Babri Masjid case, the Supreme Court referred to the Places of Worship Act 1991 and said no new claims could be entertained after the enactment of this law that specified that the status of any place of worship as on August 15, 1947 shall remain unchanged and cannot be challenged. The Muslim Personal Law Board went on to refer to the Chandrachud bench order last year, saying yet when the lower court accepted the claim on the Gyan-Vapi mosque, the Muslim side approached the Supreme Court, arguing that such a claim should not be entertained given the Places of Worship Act. The court, however, then softened its stance and allowed the survey, stating it did not violate the 1991 law. Well, this is what has led to subsequent claims on the Shahi Eidgah in Mathura, Tile Wali Masjid in Lucknow, and now the Jama Masjid in Sambhal and Ajmer Sharif. The SC had to step in earlier this month to stop any such surveys till it decides on the matter. Mohan Bhagwat's latest statement, however, seems at odds with what the UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath said later on Tuesday. He said that temples of Hindus have been destroyed time and again in Kashi Vishwanath Dham, in the Krishna Janmbhumi, in the Ram Janmbhumi in Ayodhya, in Sambhal at Kalki Avatar's Hariraj Bhumi, and in Bhojpur. The UP Chief Minister has said, citing the Hindu temple names at these sites which have mosques right now. This controversy is not going to die down anytime soon because Mohan Bhagwat is making his mind known, but on the other hand you have the UP Chief Minister who's also making it
Is the UK joining the Khalistan bandwagon? We ask because all the symptoms are there. Paranoia about threats to Sikhs, no evidence, no actionable intelligence, yet all the blame is being put on India. Recently, the UK Security Minister wrote to a Sikh group, a group with known Khalistani links. Listen to what he said.
We do not tolerate intimidation or threats to life. And through our intelligence agencies and police forces will continue to use all the tools at our disposal to keep people safe. Any attempt by any foreign power to intimidate, harass, or harm individuals or communities in the UK will not be tolerated.
So, foreign power is harassing Sikhs, and the UK is promising to protect them. Clearly, this letter needs some context. Last week, a Sikh Labour MP flagged an apparent issue. Her name is Preet Gill, that's the MP. She says that British Sikhs are being harassed upon re-entry to Britain. They're being stopped and grilled at airports. And what are they being asked? Things like, what are your views on Sikhism? What do you think about the partition? And what's your opinion on the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar? Now, two things to note here. First of all, this is all anecdotal. And second, and more importantly, it's happening in the UK. These are not Indian airports. These are not Indian immigration officials. So how is this India's fault? Well, apparently, this harassment is being done on behalf of New Delhi. It's a ludicrous argument. Just listen to one of the alleged incidents. A Sikh man was returning from a holiday in Turkey. He was stopped at the Manchester airport. Apparently, he was manhandled by the officer. They even tried to remove his turban. If he's innocent, this is horrible indeed. But like I said, how is this India's fault? Britain is infamous for racial profiling. Minorities are regularly targeted and harassed here. And we saw an example of that earlier this year. 3 girls were stabbed to death in Southport. Immediately, rumors spread about the identity of the killer. A lot of people said he was a Muslim immigrant. What followed were massive riots against British Muslims. Mosques were targeted, Islamic community centers were vandalized, but as it turned out, the suspect was not a Muslim. This is the reality of British society. Racial profiling and targeting is rampant, yet who does the minister blame? India. Clearly, this is not about rules or harassment, it's about politics. Because the minister's letter also refers to Hardeep Singh Nijjar. He says he supports Canada's investigation. He has also urged India to cooperate. Cooperate with what exactly? Canada is yet to give a single piece of evidence. Their entire case is built on, trust me, bro. That's what they have. And when there is evidence, they don't act on it. Like when Indian diplomatic missions are attacked or Indian diplomats are threatened. Same with the US. Gurpatwant Singh Pannu has been threatening India's ambassador to Washington, and what has the US government done? Nothing. Today, India's foreign ministry raised this issue. They're taking these threats very seriously.
As and when such threats are issued, we take them very seriously and we raise it with the US government. In this particular case also, we've raised it with the US government, and it is our expectation that the United States government will take our security concerns seriously and act on it.
We expect this from Canada and the US, but why is the UK jumping on? Perhaps because of the new government. The Labour Party is seen as soft on Khalistan, and with good reason. Let me show you a picture from 2020. This is Keir Starmer at the Smedig Gurdwara, a place known for backing Khalistan. Now, there are Khalistani flags outside this Gurdwara. Inside are pictures of slain Khalistanis. It's almost like a shrine to the separatist movement. In 2020, Keir Starmer visited this Gurdwara. I must add here that this was before he became party leader and prime minister. Since then, he has distanced himself, especially because he wants to sign a free trade deal with India. But his party MPs still support Khalistan, like Preet Gill, who we just mentioned. These sympathizers may sense an opportunity here. They know that Khalistan is in news again. They also know that the US and Canada are putting pressure on India, so it's the best time to jump on. The question is, how far will they take it? This time the minister did not make a public statement. Instead, he wrote a letter to a Sikh group, a letter that was accessed by just one British outlet. So maybe London is being cautious. Let's see if that attitude changes in the future. Now let's turn our attention to India. It's the world's most populous nation, and its economic power is spreading beyond its borders. 18 million Indians live overseas. Many of them send money or remittances back home. They infuse billions of dollars into the Indian economy. According to the World Bank, they sent $129 billion this year. That is equal to the annual budgets of Bangladesh and Pakistan combined. At $129 billion, India is the top recipient of remittances globally. The second is Mexico with $68 billion. Look at the gap. That's almost half of India's influx. How does India retain the top spot year after year, and what does it mean for the country? Our next report tells you.
Every year, millions of Indians go abroad to study or to work. According to the UN, 18 million Indians now live overseas, in places including North America, Europe, the Arab nations, and other parts of Asia like Malaysia and Singapore. A lot of them send money back home. This transfer is known as remittances. With high-earning Indians settling abroad, billions of dollars are being infused into the Indian economy, specifically $129 billion. According to the World Bank, that's how much India has received in remittances this year, making the world's most populous nation the top recipient globally. And this news is not surprising. India has retained the #1 spot for years. Over the last 4 years, the nation has steadily received remittances of more than $100 billion. In 2020, the pandemic peaked, so India saw an inflow of $83 billion. Over the last decade, remittances to India have grown by 57%. In total, India has received nearly $1 trillion only in remittances. To put it in perspective, just look at this year. India's remittances alone is nearly the combined total of neighbouring Bangladesh and Pakistan's annual budgets. After India, Mexico got the highest remittances, followed by China, the Philippines, and Pakistan. Compare the first and second spots. Mexico's remittances don't even come close to India's. They are nearly half. Now, India's remittances have primarily flowed in from West Asia, North America, and Europe. This is driven by a mix of workers, both skilled and semi-skilled, who migrated abroad for employment, primarily in healthcare, technology, and construction sectors. Their remittances have played a vital role in India's economy. While India takes the top spot, it has been a good year of transfers for low and middle income countries, especially in South Asia. According to the World Bank, this year the total remittances are expected to reach $685 billion. This is a growth of 5.8% compared to the last year. It is a massive jump, and it is mostly thanks to a recovery in job markets in high-income countries. While the numbers are good, the inflow of money is only the beginning. Remittances are crucial for a nation. These transfers serve as a critical source of foreign exchange, which helps in economic stability. In fact, remittances from citizens working abroad are a lifeline for many developing nations. This is why the real task lies ahead. Countries have to find ways to leverage this inflow and utilize it efficiently in nation building, from poverty reduction to improved infrastructure and financial inclusion. Because without it, remittances are not much more than pieces of paper from a foreign land.
A breakup is always tough. But do you know what makes it worse? Seeing your ex with your sworn enemy. That's India right now, especially after seeing these pictures. That's Bangladesh's interim chief, Mohammad Yunus. And look who he's hugging. Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. It's a bit hard to explain this. Think of it as Batman embracing the Joker, except Batman has lost his memory and forgotten that Joker is evil. That pretty much sums it up. Both Sharif and Yunus are in Cairo for a summit. It's called the D8, a group of 8 developing countries: Iran, Indonesia, Malaysia, Nigeria, Egypt, Pakistan, Bangladesh and Turkey. These countries are meeting in Cairo for the D8 summit. Sharif and Yunus met on the sidelines, and what did they discuss? A reset. You see, Bangladesh used to be part of Pakistan. They fought a bloody war for independence. Nearly 3 million Bangladeshis were killed by Pakistan's army. In the end, it was India's intervention that turned the tide. Thus, in 1971, the country of Bangladesh was born. For these reasons, Dhaka and Islamabad never got along. Sheikh Hasina wanted Pakistan to admit the killings, to apologize for what they did in 1971, but Pakistan kept refusing. Yunus, though, has a different take on things. Listen to what he told Shehbaz Sharif, and I'm quoting, "The issues have kept coming again and again. Let's settle those issues for us to move forward. It would be nice to resolve things once and for all for the future generations." He says, issues kept coming up. I guess that's what we call genocide nowadays. Just another issue. On his part, Shehbaz Sharif called for a strategic relationship with Dhaka. He called Bangladesh a brotherly nation. As for the 1971 question, Sharif said it's already been settled. He pointed to the 1974 tripartite agreement. It was signed by India, Pakistan and Bangladesh. This agreement repatriated prisoners of war. It also resettled the displaced population of Bangladesh, but it did not deal with an apology. So Pakistan's position is quite clear. You're not going to get an apology from us. But let's reset our relationship anyways. That's what Islamabad wants. Sadly, Mohammad Yunus seems open to it. He also raised another issue with Shehbaz Sharif, that of SAARC. SAARC stands for South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation. Think of it as South Asia's ASEAN, a regional grouping of India and its neighbors. The last SAARC summit was held in 2014. Pakistan was slated to host the next one in 2016, but India pulled out of it. India pulled out because that year, in 2016, Pakistani terrorists attacked the Indian army in Uri. Since then, SAARC has been defunct. Now, Mohammad Yunus wants to revive it. Listen to what he told Shehbaz Sharif. "I am a big fan of the idea of SAARC. I keep harping on the issue. I want a summit of SAARC leaders, even if it is only for a photo session, because that will carry a strong message." Pakistan is on board, of course, but India is not. Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar explained India's position in the month of October. He said one SAARC member is spreading terrorism. Until that stops, SAARC cannot be revived. Either way, the takeaway from Cairo is pretty clear. Dhaka and Islamabad are becoming friends, and frankly, it was on the cards. Look at everything that Mohammad Yunus has done. He opened a direct maritime bridge to Pakistan, meaning ships can sail directly from Pakistan to Bangladesh. This was not possible before. He also lifted some security requirements. Earlier, Pakistani shipments were checked at Bangladeshi ports. Pakistani travelers also had extra screenings. Both those requirements have been lifted by Yunus. In response, Pakistan has relaxed visa norms for Bangladeshis. And this could just be the start. Sharif has invited Yunus to visit Pakistan, so we could see a Bangladeshi leader visit Islamabad before New Delhi. Where does that leave India? In a spot of bother. A Pakistan-Bangladesh nexus has security implications for New Delhi. We saw that in the 1990s and 2000s. Pakistan would smuggle arms into Bangladesh, and from there, the weapons would enter India's northeast. That's where separatists would get their hands on them. Will that nexus return under Yunus? We'll be hoping it doesn't, but his actions have reaffirmed what many feared, that this isn't Bangladesh 2.0. This is the return of East Pakistan. Let's turn our attention to Kuwait. This weekend, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit the Gulf nation. It will be the first visit by an Indian Prime Minister to Kuwait in over 40 years. Kuwait is a key supplier of crude oil to India, and like most Gulf kingdoms, it also has a large Indian community. These two factors have traditionally shaped India's ties with Kuwait. But this visit aims to go beyond. The Prime Minister of India plans to explore new areas like trade, investment and security, and the timing of this visit is also crucial. With Israel's war in Gaza and the fall of the Assad regime in Syria, West Asia is in a flux. How would India approach its engagements in the region? Prime Minister Modi's visit tomorrow could offer some valuable insights. Here's a report.
For the first time in 4 decades, an Indian Prime Minister will visit Kuwait. PM Modi follows in the footsteps of Indira Gandhi. She was the last Indian leader to visit the Gulf Kingdom in the 1980s. India has undergone a transformation since then. It is now a rising economic power, a key market, and an important geopolitical player. For Gulf nations looking to reinvent their economies, India has become a vital partner. In that spirit, Kuwait has made an outreach to New Delhi. Earlier this year, India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar visited Kuwait. A few weeks ago, Kuwait's Foreign Minister paid a return visit. An agreement was signed. India and Kuwait have established a joint commission for cooperation. It will help both countries deepen their multifaceted relationship and cover a range of different areas from trade to investment and security. Prime Minister Modi would hope to build on this foundation.
India ranks among Kuwait's top trading partners, with bilateral trade between the two countries at more than $10 billion during the year 2023-24. Kuwait also remains a reliable energy partner for India.
Like other West Asian partners, India and Kuwait share strong pillars of cooperation. Kuwait is a key energy supplier to India, ranking as its 6th largest crude oil supplier. The Indian community in Kuwait is significant, with over 1 million Indians living there. They are active in all parts of Kuwaiti society. Kuwait is also the 4th largest source of remittances for India. In 2021, Indians in Kuwait sent over $4 billion back home. More importantly, the Prime Minister's visit is a crucial milestone for his West Asia outreach. Since taking office, he's made the region a priority. The frequency of his visits to West Asia demonstrate that. PM Modi has visited the UAE 7 times. Saudi Arabia and Qatar have received 2 visits each, while Bahrain and Oman have welcomed the Prime Minister at least once. A visit to Kuwait marks another step in deepening India's ties with the Gulf. The timing of the trip is critical. West Asia is witnessing significant shifts. Israel's war against Hamas and the Hezbollah has shifted regional dynamics. It has left Iran weaker in its traditional spheres of influence. The fall of the Assad regime in Syria will also reshape India's West Asia strategy and engagements. The message to Kuwait sends a signal to the Gulf. The regional tensions have not slowed down India's engagements in the Gulf. In fact, India is expanding its outreach.
Our next story is about schools. They are sanctuaries of learning where young minds dream and thrive. For millions of children in India, it's their second home. It's where they spend a big part of their day. But are these schools safe? How secure are our schools for the children? We ask because of headlines like these. They seem to have become a daily affair. Delhi schools receive bomb threat, premises evacuated, classes shifted to online mode. In the end, it turns out to be a hoax. So children return to the classrooms, they go back to their routine, and then comes the next threat. It's a disturbing pattern. In this year alone, in 2024, 206 schools in Delhi have received bomb threats. 206 schools. In the last 11 days, 6 schools have received such threats. 6 schools in 11 days. And how many people have been arrested or punished for these threats? A grand total of 0. Not a single person. What does this say about the security of our educational institutions? Are we doing enough to ensure the safety of our children? Let's look at the threats first. It usually starts with an anonymous email sent to the school administration either late at night or early in the morning. And how do the schools respond? If the students are not in, they're told not to come. But if they're already in the school premises, it gets more complicated, of course. The students and the staff are evacuated, the local authorities come in, your fire department, bomb detection teams, maybe even dog squads. They search the premises. They usually find nothing, no bomb, which is good. But the email has managed to disrupt the system. So who is sending these mails? That's the hard part. It's hard to track. Most of them are sent via a VPN, a virtual private network. So the server does not disclose the location of the sender. Or it shows multiple locations in some cases, like Sweden and the Netherlands. Is there no way to trace these VPNs? There is, but the process is lengthy. The police must write to the VPN network. By the time they get a response, they're busy dealing with the next threat. So far, only one IP address has been traced in these recent cases, and the culprit turned out to be a student. He confessed after questioning, and he was later counseled. Some of these mails have outrageous demands, like asking for $30,000. The police have also imposed a penalty for such threats. But how does it matter if you're not even catching anyone? Thankfully, there have been no bombs, but that's not to say that there is no impact. The threats may be a hoax, but the response is still very real. Imagine reaching school and being told to return or to evacuate. Imagine that happening multiple times a year. It affects the students, it affects their families. It can be stressful. After a point, it seems like a cruel joke. You start taking it less seriously, which is even more dangerous, because what if the next threat is real? Hence the question, are our schools equipped to deal with this? Well, they do have SOPs, standard operating procedures, a guide on what to do in such a situation. You call the police, the bomb squad, fire services, traffic police, disaster management services. They must all arrive at the spot. This is the current protocol. Schools must be equipped to evacuate quickly. They must regularly hold mock drills so that students know what to do in such a situation. But how many schools follow these SOPs? Reports suggest that safety is quite low on the priority list of a lot of them. Around 36% schools don't even have a perimeter wall, according to a report, which means anyone and everyone can enter. Most schools do have a wall, but they are vulnerable to entries. Then come your CCTV cameras. According to the Education Ministry, all schools must have a CCTV camera. So schools have installed such cameras, but do they work? Let's look at the example of Delhi. Nearly 50% of CCTVs at Delhi government schools do not work. And mind you, these are all physical security measures. There's cyber security as well. Schools store sensitive information about children, makes them vulnerable to cyber attacks. So robust cyber security measures are also a priority, or should be, like using firewalls, having regular software updates, training staff on recognizing phishing attempts. All of this is essential to protect sensitive data. And I must say here, the idea is not to sensationalize, it is to sensitize. 206 bomb threats may have been hoaxes, but what if the 207th one is real? So it is time to ask tough questions. Sending children back home and searching school premises is not enough. We must go to the root of the problem. How are these threats being made? Why are they not being tracked effectively? And what can we do to stop this? Schools are meant to be safe havens, not soft targets. We owe it to our children to protect them. Vantage continues after a short break.
RSS chief Mohan Bhagwat has spoken again on the Mandir-Masjid disputes in the country. Mr. Bhagwat said that some individuals following the construction of the Ram temple in Ayodhya are under the impression that they can become leaders of Hindus by raking up such disputes. This is unacceptable, Mr. Bhagwat has said. To quote him, every day a new matter or a dispute is being raked up. How can this be allowed? This cannot continue. The RSS chief said that the world needs to be shown that the country can live together in harmony. By building the Ram temple, which is a matter of faith of Hindus, one does not become a Hindu leader. This is what Mr. Bhagwat is saying. He said Ram temple is a matter of faith for Indians, and under the burden of the past, we should not resort to extreme hatred, malice, enmity, and after raising doubts, we should not rake up new issues. Mr. Bhagwat said that the Ram temple was a matter of faith and Hindus felt that it should be built. But raising issues about some news sites out of hate and enmity is unacceptable. Well, this is not the first time Mohan Bhagwat has spoken on this particular issue. In 2022, Bhagwat had said it was not proper to escalate communal fights. Why look for a shivling in every masjid? Mohan Bhagwat had then said, addressing a ceremony in Nagpur. This was in light of the Gyanvapi issue, which Bhagwat said involves some issues of faith and the court's decision on it should be acceptable by all. He also advised everyone involved in the Gyanvapi mosque case to sit together and find a way with mutual consent. But also there was no need to find a shivling in every mosque and start a new dispute every day. This is what Mohan Bhagwat's stand has been. He said that the RSS had already made it clear that its participation in the Ayodhya agitation was an exception and for historical reasons, and RSS had now completed it. Bhagwat said, now we don't want to lead any movement. Well, the RSS chief's statement has made the opposition take pot shots at the BJP and say that though Bhagwat is giving sound advice, no one is listening to him in the BJP. Bhagwat's latest comments are also significant as they come just after the Supreme Court has put a stay on any decisions on new surveys or petitions in Mandir-Masjid disputes till next February. This was after the moves of the lower courts on Sambhal and the Ajmer Sharif issue had brought the focus of political attacks on the former Chief Justice of India, D.Y. Chandrachud, for opening the floodgates for such petitions and surveys of various religious sites in the country. First, the All India Muslim Personal Law Board and then the Samajwadi Party targeted Justice Chandrachud for a decision last year by a bench headed by him which allowed an ASI survey of the Gyanvapi premises in Varanasi. The SP said that decision by Chandrachud was a bad one, a wrong one. It has opened the floodgates for many more surveys and the Supreme Court must take cognizance and stop such petitions and surveys in the country's interest. On this petition, it is the one in fact which the Supreme Court has now put a stay earlier this month on any fresh surveys till the Supreme Court decides on the matter by February. The Muslim Personal Law Board also issued a statement on the same lines earlier, blaming the Chandrachud-led bench for softening his stance and allowing a survey at Gyanvapi. During the Babri Masjid case, the Supreme Court referred to the Places of Worship Act 1991 and said no new claims could be entertained after the enactment of this law that specified that the status of any place of worship as on August 15, 1947 shall remain unchanged and cannot be challenged. The Muslim Personal Law Board went on to refer to the Chandrachud bench order last year, saying yet when the lower court accepted the claim on the Gyanvapi mosque, the Muslim side approached the Supreme Court, arguing that such a claim should not be entertained given the Places of Worship Act. The court, however, then softened its stance and allowed the survey, stating it did not violate the 1991 law. Well, this is what has led to subsequent claims on the Shahi Eidgah in Mathura, Tilewali Masjid in Lucknow and now the Jama Masjid in Sambhal and Ajmer Sharif. The SC had to step in earlier this month to stop any such surveys till it decides on the matter. Mohan Bhagwat's latest statement, however, seems at odds with what the UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath
In the digital age, not everything you see is real. Imagine a global stage, two world leaders, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni and Tesla CEO Elon Musk. They meet, they shake hands, they smile at each other. Yet the video that spreads online is completely different. It shows them kissing each other. It's obviously a deep fake, an AI-generated video, but it's so convincing that it fools millions of people. They take it for real. And this is dangerous. What happens when technology turns truth into a casualty? What does it mean for world leaders? Our next report tells you.
The meeting was anything but ordinary. It was the opening of the Notre Dame Cathedral. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni was there, and so was Tesla CEO Elon Musk. The two leaders met each other. There are videos of them smiling and talking to each other. These sparked a lot of speculation online, but the narrative took a sinister turn with this video. The video shows Meloni kissing Musk, and it has since gone viral. Captions include statements like "E amore," which means it's love. But this isn't a real video, it's AI generated. And if you look closely, the signs are there. The hands are distorted in some points, and when the two turn, it looks like different people. They don't even look like Meloni or Musk, and the people behind are also distorted. But despite these discrepancies, the videos are being circulated. They're all over social media, and the implication of this can be fatal. First, videos like these are amplified, especially when the target is a woman, particularly one holding a position of power. In this case, it's Giorgia Meloni, Italy's first female prime minister. She has already faced her share of scrutiny and stereotyping. Her expressive demeanor makes her the subject of memes, those that link her to other world leaders. However, the Musk-Meloni video is a stark escalation, venturing into the realm of outright fabrication. For female leaders, these incidents are not just about personal embarrassment, they strike at the core of their professional legitimacy. Women in politics already contend with gendered biases. There is the constant challenge of proving their credibility in male-dominated arenas. Fabricated content risks trivializing their work, reducing their public image to tabloid fodder. But beyond personal reputations, AI-generated content has far-reaching political consequences. Meloni and Musk share a friendly relation, and she's talked about it recently, on how she maintains good relationships with people but doesn't take orders from anyone. Such fabrications can undermine serious diplomatic dialogues, sowing unnecessary discord among international allies. And the potential for sabotage is immense. Imagine a scenario where AI-generated content falsely portrays a leader, like making inflammatory remarks or engaging in inappropriate behavior. The resulting public and diplomatic fallout could be far-reaching. It could destabilize governments, strain international relations, and erode public trust in institutions. This new video serves as a chilling reminder of the power and peril of AI-generated content. As society grapples with the ethical dilemmas posed by AI, one thing is clear. Truth must remain a cornerstone of our digital age. Outrage sparked by videos like this can't be just another fleeting headline. It must be the catalyst for change.